Indefinite leave to remain, a cornerstone of the UK's immigration system, often known as ILR. It grants the right to live, work, and study without time limits. Think of it as permanent residency. Individuals with ILR are no longer subject to immigration controls. They do not need to apply for visas to continue living here. This status is typically granted to people who have lived in the UK legally for a certain period, usually 5 years. Often after time on visas like a skilled worker visa or a family visa, it's a crucial step towards becoming a British citizen. The people who hold ILR are deeply integrated into British society. They are our colleagues, our neighbours and our friends. They could be the nurse who has worked in the NHS for half a decade, the software engineer who has contributed to a tech company, or the spouse of a British citizen who has built a family here. These individuals have followed the rules, paid their taxes and established their lives. The Reform Party has introduced a radical new immigration policy. It proposes to remove indefinite leave to remain entirely. This represents a fundamental departure from decades of UK immigration law and practice. The concept of permanent settlement for non-citizens would be abolished. Instead of settling permanently after lawful residence, immigrants would have to continually renew visas throughout their time in the UK. All foreign-born residents who are not citizens would effectively become temporary migrants, regardless of how long they've lived here or how integrated they are into British life. The core idea, a person's right to remain, is always conditional. The party says this gives the government greater control over immigration numbers and ensures only those who meet specific criteria can stay. For example, requalification might be required based on income, job or other requirements every few years. This could apply to new arrivals and to people who already hold ILR, stripping their permanent status. The proposal redefines the immigrant-state relationship, shifting from settlement to perpetual temporary residence. The legal implications of abolishing indefinite leave to remain would be immense and complex. It would require a complete overhaul of the UK's immigration laws, which have been built for generations around the principle of eventual settlement. Laws would need to be rewritten to remove all references to ILR, and new legislation would need to be created to manage this system of rolling temporary visas. A significant legal challenge would be how to deal with the millions of people who already hold ILR. Retrospectively, stripping them of their status would likely face fierce opposition in the courts, potentially on human rights grounds, particularly the right to a family and private life as protected under the European Convention on Human Rights. The economic effects of such a policy could be profoundly disruptive. The UK economy relies heavily on the skills and labour of long-term residents, healthcare, technology, finance. The uncertainty created by removing ILR would make the UK a much less attractive destination for global talent. Highly skilled professionals may choose to move to countries that offer a clear path to permanent residency, Canada, Australia. This could lead to significant skill shortages, harming business productivity and international competitiveness. The social impact of removing indefinite leave to remain would be felt most acutely in communities and families across the country. The policy would create a deep sense of anxiety and insecurity among millions who consider the UK their home. Families could be torn apart. Imagine one parent is British, the other on a temporary visa. If that person loses their job or fails to meet a new income threshold, they could be forced to leave the country. This would separate them from their British spouse and children. This would cause immense emotional distress and destabilize countless families. The policy would foster a sense of otherness and division within society. People who feel insecure may be less likely to engage community life, volunteering, or build strong relationships with their neighbours. They may feel like they are in permanent limbo, unable to fully participate. This could form more isolated, segregated communities. Daily life would become fraught with bureaucratic hurdles and uncertainty. In conclusion, abolishing ILR would be a monumental shift with far-reaching consequences. Ultimately, it risks trading the long-term benefits of integration for the illusion of short-term control, changing what it means to call the UK home.